right, guys. Let's go ahead and go to our last topic for tonight. Amateurism in college sports in general is done. The the 100 and what was it, 119 year
Yeah.
model, 119 years, came to an end this month. I don't know how to feel about this, guys. NIL, we knew eventually was going to lead to this. That the wild wild west of name, image, likeness needed guardrails, and in order to get those guardrails set in place, the NCAA was going to have to litigate uh, a settlement, which is what has taken place. So colleges will now be able to pay, was it 21 million, something like that.
20.5, I think they
Yeah,
said.
and here's the thing: is it's not just the football players; they can disperse this how they deem fit. And what's funny is Title IX. There's already a lawsuit out there for Title IX saying it's unfair to women's athletics because the majority of the money seems to be being allocated to the football team or to men's
They
sports,
make the
depending on.
money though.
I know, Chris. I know that's not what this argument's about. I mean, I think that's gonna be, you
Isn't
know,
Title IX gone though? I thought
no, it's Title IX is still a thing.
I thought Trump ended Title IX.
No, it's
He,
still a thing.
Oh, I
it's
thought
still a
he had,
thing, but it's under attack.
yeah.
Yeah, I think the difference between Title IX and the whole DEI hiring thing is
Mhm.
maybe kind of I don't work in the human resources, so
Yeah, yeah.
I don't want to touch that with a 10-foot pole tonight. But all I'm saying is players are getting paid now.
Yeah.
And what's interesting about this, and the discussion I want to kind of take this towards, is now that the amateur model is essentially finished in college football, and that's what we're going to talk about in general tonight. I want to know how you guys will look back at amateurism. We just had a few weeks ago a former Ohio State football player on this show, and every single former football player Chris and I have talked to, Jerry, I'm sure it's the same for you. They all say they are happy that players are now getting reimbursed for what they do on the field. These universities have made millions and upon millions of dollars off the backs of players who are risking their health on the gridiron. And in a lot of ways, truth be told, like Chris alluded to, the entire athletic department and other sports in a whole are able to do what they do because of those players on the college football field. That being said, I want to know how you guys will remember amateurism. We're going to write the amateurism history tonight on this podcast.
Like it.
We're going to say, guys, this is how we would like for our future generations, our children and grandchildren, great grandchildren, when they read about amateurism in college football, here's what it was. I'll start with you, Jerry.
All right. So this topic, we can go pretty deep here. I do want to, before I answer that, can I just throw out a question? So when I think of football 10, 15 years ago, right? I still have that image of brown paper bags being given to players. So was it
Sure.
truly amateurism? I look, technically it was, but I can tell you at Pitt in the the Dan Marino years, those guys were all driving the nicest cars in Oakland. And given where they like Marino, where he lived and grew up, his parents weren't buying that stuff for him, right? Somebody was giving it to him. And I shouldn't throw out a specific name, but
What would those cars have been back then?
many of those players were driving nice cars. Offensive
Cadillacs? Were
linemen.
they Cadillacs back then?
But so amateurism, I think there was always something given to the player. I mean, first they got their educations paid for, which to me, I put a big value on that, getting an education. Um, you know, there were a lot of flaws with the old model. These kids couldn't go work to make money, whereas other students could work to get money to afford pizzas and so forth. Um, the problem is this: like under the old model of amateurism, they played, they went to school hopefully to be able to get a job. Most of them weren't going to go to the NFL. Superstars went on, made their careers in the NFL. Um, and it seemed like there was more loyalty to the teams. It was more loyalty to the team, to the school that they went to, and I think that's gone. I think it's gone. It's hey, we'll pay you a little more to come here. And not all players, but a lot of players, they'll jump ship right away. And I think that's the biggest impact on the amateurism is there's not as much loyalty to the school anymore.
Mm. Well, the transfer portal definitely shows that. Yeah. Um, Chris, before you give yours, can I give mine real fast?
Yeah.
I would say I would love this to be written in a textbook someday about this era. The amateur model for 100+ years was the transition from adolescence to adulthood, where high school athletes who were talented enough to play football got to still play the game they loved, and those who were good enough eventually went on to play professionally. To me, that was the amateur model. It was a transition from adolescence to adulthood, and there was still a glimmer of innocence there.
Eric, that was so well said, buddy. Thumbs up on what you said.
Now, Chris, go ahead and destroy it.
The amateur era was the heart and soul of sports. It was a time when players played for pride, tradition, and school spirit, and not just for the damn dollar. It was an era built on passion and just the raw love of the game. Yes, Jerry's right. Some people got their brown bags. We know that. We all know that.
Hmm.
But the fact is, it was a time when you played for the name on the front of the jersey, not the name on the back. It was an era where you were all about the team. You were selfless. There was pageantry. There was rivalries. There was a deep rooted tradition
Hmm.
that, as you heard me just talk about earlier, I feel is being quashed as we speak.
Hmm.
Do I think the kids deserve something? Yeah. I was a big fan like Jerry was. I think the education was undervalued. I think they deserved a stipend, absolutely, and probably a bigger stipend these days, given the state of the economy these days. I'm okay with that. Would I have been okay with them getting a job or even getting some NIL money as long as there was guardrails on it? Absolutely. But what we have done is, in a matter of what, 3, 4 years, we have destroyed everything that was good and pure about the game. It is no longer that same game that it was when, you know, I first started watching.
Mm-hmm.
It wasn't the it doesn't have the same fire. It's businesslike.
Yeah.
Oh, it's all yeah. You're spot on,
It's
Chris.
it's it's just I feel like the passion is gone unless you're talking about the passion of the dollar.
Hmm.
I feel
You
like it's ruined the game. Amateurism was the best model for college sports.
I couldn't agree
I
more.
you can look at pictures that are black and white from the 30s and 40s. Color was coming around in the 50s, and those players were wearing Letterman jackets,
Yes,
and players were still getting those Letterman jackets as still get them today. But my point is now the players they've gone from Letterman jackets to fur coats, and you know,
Showing their Rolex watch or whatever watch they get, Petty.
whatever NIL they're getting now and getting all dressed up and just, and the innocence is gone.
Yes.
And that's what I am going to miss the most. I'm still going to root for the team on the front of the jersey. I'm still going to go to games and
Mhm.
drop a couple $100 to go to a game and get a hot dog and a pop, you know. But it's not amateurism to me was innocence, and that's what is no longer going to be there. Um,
Can I ask you
hey,
guys a quick question on this?
yeah, yeah.
Know what's interesting? And maybe I'm reaching, but it's interesting because when Nil started is roughly the same time the SEC dominance started dropping.
Oh, yeah. We
Hundred
mentioned that
percent.
repeatedly.
So we were talking about. I'm just throwing it
The
out.
level playing field.
The brown paper bags.
Yeah.
Just as a
Yes.
Big Ten fan, I'm like,
This
maybe,
is this
maybe.
is what this is the argument I have made, that Chris and I made this argument years ago, before before 2023, when NIL started. We said, mark it down. The NIL has been going on in the SEC for decades.
Mhm.
And now that it's legal and has been above the table now and it's legal, I said the playing field will be level. Watch and see that the Big Ten doesn't doesn't come on equal footing with the SEC. And boy, did they start whining and crying. What was the big narrative last offseason from the ESCCPN? Ohio State's got a $20 million roster. How can we compete with that? Like, 100 guys, you've been doing that for decades down there.
Yeah, but there is something different, and I'll say this back to Michigan's championship too. They paid the players. They didn't go out and they got a quarterback that was on the bench last year, and they got a great safety, Ohio State, right? Um, but other than that, they paid the players that they recruited and developed. And I'll say that for the Michigan's championship team too. The players that they recruited and developed are the ones that won it. So those players were getting paid whatever, $20 million, whatever Ohio paid. But it's not the same as buying a team in regards to going out, snagging this, snagging that, snagging this. They paid their players to stay instead of go to the NFL, right?
Mm-hmm.
And I think there's a big difference in those two models.
100%. Massive. Um, yeah. So yeah, Jerry, we've been saying that here for a while. I know that um, over on the Always Irish, John Kennedy picked that up, and his guys picked that up a year ago as well, and they started talking about it from their perspective, being a northern school. Notre Dame was just a little bit more, I think, late to accepting the whole NIL thing as compared to Ohio State and others in the Big Ten, who maybe had some more of a financial backing at the time to go down that rabbit hole. But yeah, that is, to me, bringing it full circle here. Now the NIL is being brought into the universities, and it's no longer a situation where collectives are out there doing their own thing. Now, I'm not naive, guys. I still believe that there's going to be brown bags. I think as
Friends of the
long
program.
as long as there are people willing to cheat, cheating will continue to happen. And I don't just say that just because Jerry roots for a team that I think cheated. That,
You
but I'm
wouldn't.
sick.
You think you haven't proved yet.
Oh
I
well,
know.
we'll find out here soon enough, Jerry.
I
But
know.
we'll say this. We'll say this on this topic. Now that there are guidelines in place, there are guardrails in place where if you're getting an NIL, I think it's above $600,
Yeah.
you have to report that to a committee now that is associated to the NCAA and the College Football Playoff Committee here. Um, that everything is supposed to be above board here. And so this is going to be, I think, an attempt on their part to make more of a level playing field even more. And if I'm a betting man, and I am a little bit, I think the current run in the Big 10, I think it's going to continue. I believe that it's going to go back and forth like a ping pong match. I don't think one conference is going to completely dominate for a decade or more when it comes to national championships because the playing field is just too level now. I still think there are the haves and the have-nots in this model. I still think that Michigan, Penn State, Ohio State, Oregon, Nebraska, in the Big Ten, USC have an advantage. I think down south, Alabama, Georgia, Tennessee, LSU, Florida, they have an advantage over the other schools. But I don't think you're going to see dominance from an SEC. I don't think you're going to see dominance from a Big Ten. And mark it down, every now and then, I think an ACC school can jump in there. Maybe a Big 12 school can jump in there. And that's to me, that's good. I like that.
Yeah, I
If Ohio
agree.
State can't win it every single year, I like to see a little bit more parity. Do you guys agree with that?
Yeah, I actually do agree with what you said. I think more often than not, it's going to be
Did
SEC
I
and
freeze?
No,
no, no. Can you hear me?
Yeah, we can hear you.
Okay. Yeah, I think more often than not, it's going to be the SEC, Big Ten, um, just because, like you said, the resources, the no programs that they have, plus with the revenue sharing. So more often than not, it will be those schools. But I think you're right. It's going to bounce back and forth. And at the end of the day, you still need to have the talent to win it, right? Like you think about Texas A&M a few years ago, however much they spent. I mean, there are all the rumors. Saban said one thing, whatever his name denied it, but they went out and tried buying their recruiting class, right? And most of those guys left. They're not there anymore. Um, I'm talking about like back when whatever that
yeah,
defensive line
Jimbo.
Nolan when he went there. They tried buying the team, but if they don't mesh and they don't develop, I don't know if that's going to ultimately win the championship, right?
Yeah, you can't buy a team and just expect it to come together.
Yeah.
They've still got to. You need to have the pieces that fit, not just you could take and buy the 20 best athletes on the board, but if they don't fit together as a cohesive unit, it doesn't matter.
Yep. I
If you
agree.
don't have the coaching Penn State to get over the hump, it doesn't matter.
Yep.
Doesn't matter how talented you are if you don't have the whole package.
Yeah, I agree with you, Chris. You know, it's almost going to be the haves and haves nots, but it's the sad part of all this is these other a school like Pitt. I love Pitt. I went there, right? They don't have a chance. I mean, we have a collective. Pitt has a collective. They do not have a chance because as soon as a player, they're not recruiting all the 4 and 5 stars. They're getting 2 and 3 stars. Every now and then they'll land a 4 star, right? As soon as they develop that player, he's gone. And I think Pitt's a great example of that. It's a program should be good. It's not going to happen anymore. The players are going to leave as soon as they develop. It's just like a feeder system to the Ohio States, the Michigans, Alabamas, Georgias, whoever else. It's going to be different. It's going to be hard to compete with the SEC and Big Ten for a lot of reasons: transfer portal and nil.
Last question. Will the amateur model, those 119 years, will those be remembered as the good old days, Chris?
Absolutely. Like I said, it was the best time in college sports. It's when the players played for the name on the front of the jersey and not the back. And I talked about it earlier. The pride, the pageantry, the tradition, everything. There was something special about it. Now we have just moved on to the NFL's minor league.
Yeah, that's exactly it. I agree. We're going to look back and say the good old days without question. you know, not trying to change the subject here, but just think about like when we were kids, when the three of us were kids, New Year's Day, 3 games at noon, 3 games at 3 or 4 o'clock, 3 at night. You were flipping the state. All that's gone. In fact, the players, they make a bowl game. I'm going to the NFL. I'm not going to worry about playing in the bowl
Mhm.
game
That's a
anymore.
whole nother show right there.
Yeah, I wonder who the first player will be that sits out in the college football playoff.
Well, there was some talk about that
There
last
was
year,
there
right?
was
There was
already talk about
school
it.
and a certain quarterback left. They were saying that was going on during the playoffs, right? I don't know if
Yeah.
that's true, but that was the rumor.
Man, Ryan Day's championship period. What a great question. Will schools lose their pageantry? If a school can hang on to it, then who is it? That's a great question. That's a whole
You
show,
know
man.
what? I almost feel like it's not a school that you would think, because you would say an Ohio State, a Michigan, an Alabama, a Georgia, one of these schools with this history is going to be the one to do it. I don't think so. These guys are the ones that are being most gobbled up by the almighty dollar. I think it's a smaller school, you know?